Hello my friends, I hope you are well and ready for another meeting with scale modeling. If you follow my channel, you have probably noticed that in most cases I precede the standard video of construction, painting and weathering with a short film from the Open the Box series where I show the model in frames, additional parts that I use to build it and the finished model before painting. I think that this gives a good picture of what the product looks like in the box and what can be obtained from it. When I started this series, I found that showing the effect that can be achieved is almost unavailable in reviews on YouTube. That is why I adopted this form, so if you want to see it in the frames, just click the link in the description. But back to the main topic. Tamiya released a new model of the French Hotchkiss H39 tank in 2025. Of course, the general modeling euphoria became immediately noticeable, and as always, in such situations you could find hundreds of statements that it's necessary to build, a must-have and the model is great. The truth is that somehow the number of models built was not as big as the number of promises. I received my model from the German Model Fan editorial team to build and write an article. Of course, as always, I recorded the entire course of work and now it's time to publish it. The construction is as simple as always when we take a Tamiya model to the workshop table, efficiently, without surprises and with a certain final effect. I won't hide the fact that I didn't have to work too hard on this model because the parts fit together perfectly, the quality of the plastic is at the highest level, so the work was pure pleasure. The only thing I improved was the texture of the cast steel using a proven method with putty and a bit of glue. Oh, and I added a few welds with green stuff. Throughout the construction I used plastic glue by VMS. Even in such a small model I managed to glue in a nut to mount the screw. The turret was definitely too small for that, so I only squeezed a toothpick in there. This is proven and very effective way of holding the model elements during the painting and weathering. Of course, I used also more sophisticated tools like octopus jig, but it always depends on the model and work I need to do. Almost immediately when the model was ready, I started working on the base. I used a metal can, which after gluing into one piece is a great material for a round base. After turning it over, I glued a piece of the street and sidewalk to its bottom. The cobblestones are from mini art and the sidewalk is made of plaster tiles that I have had in my workshop for ages, so I'm unable to determine the producer. Additionally, there is also a resin grade for a savage system. The post and fence are also products from mini art. I painted all the elements with a black primer by VMS. The base, figure, model were covered with a thin layer and left to dry. The model was to be prepared in the original French painting, so I used what the producer suggested in the set: green and brown camo with large numbers on the turret. The set includes a painting scheme, so I used it to properly plan the colors on the model. For painting I used Tamiya paints, of course. The tracks are painted very dark brown with a bit of silver paint. Contrast is one of my favorite techniques, so here I took advantage of the opportunity to use it and brightened up small elements. As always, at the beginning it looks a bit cartoonish, but after everything is done, it's exactly as it should be. Before arranging the markings, I covered the model with a thin layer of glossy varnish. I have already shown this tool before, but now there is another chance to do it. Please visit the Metmo website to see how cool this device is and how many uses it has. Here it is used as a knife. I cut the decals from the excess thin film to reduce its amount. To apply them I use the softening liquid. Thanks to this all the markings are well adjusted to the surface and there are no problems with their silvering, especially since after drying they were covered with a thin layer of glossy varnish, exactly as it is always done when applying decals. Making a wash on such a small model took me about 30 minutes and after a while I could start painting the model with oil paints. Maybe saying that it's painting is a bit of an exaggeration, but oil paints definitely add additional shades and special effects. Generally the number of surfaces and colors is a very individual matter and each modeler chooses the shades that suits them best. I protected all work with wash and oil paints with matte varnish. At the same time, I covered those surfaces on which the previous layer of gloss varnish was still visible. A bit of scratches and damage to the paint will be most visible on the muffler cover. I used washable chip and nick paint by VMS to paint them. On the rest of the model I did delicate speckling. Weathering in the hard version, I started with the chassis on which I worked with products from the Pigment Jockey series. I also used dry pigment and universal weathering carrier. Applying these products is not difficult or complicated, but it's worth having some time to properly control their drying, and of course accelerator is most recommended, and possibly building a good looking texture. Notice that all elements of the vehicle have been treated appropriately and the amount of matte is appropriately selected so as not to cover too many elements. In such a small model it would be inadvisable because it would turn the miniature into a muddy block without sharpness and good appearance. Right now is a perfect moment to mention my wonderful patrons. Massive thanks, guys! The people who helped me the most are Bulldog09, Christopher Obarski, Dale Etchison, Dan Dubois, Hans Zub, Peter L, Steve Enkin and the awesome Karsten Keddy. But the people listed just now are also my great patrons. Please don't forget that you can be one of them. And I realize it's not easy these days, but if you have a few bucks you could drop in my cup, that would be great. Thanks! Oh, and one more thing. Remember that if you join for free you probably won't be able to view my work. Better try the 7 days free trial, which will give you many more possibilities. After dirting, it's time to make metallic abrasions which always appear on vehicles. For this I used a medium soft pencil which I mounted into the Matmo tool instead of the knife which I had been using so far. Rubbing the edges is great fun. Delicate metallic lines look very good on a dusty surface. This can be done on many pieces of equipment but also on parts of the vehicle's armor. Additionally, I also wrapped some elements with a silicone tip, which also added a metallic look. At this stage I started dusting the upper surfaces of the model. As you can see, the surface around the turret ring received quite a lot of dust, but this is due to the fact that this is a place where the crew doesn't rub the armor too much with their movements. Just like with painting, here I used pigment to create contrast. It's easiest to achieve this on even surfaces of individual armor plates. Two colors of rust are enough to build a properly looking effect on the muffler. With a few drops of universal weathering carrier, the effect is certain. Not overdone, too colorful, but subdued, ideal for an armored vehicle. The exhaust tip was appropriately dusted with black pigment, simulating exhaust fumes. Now I painted the dump spots. It's most visible on dusted surfaces. It's worth remembering not to have too much of it, but on the other hand it all depends on the effect you want to achieve. I use a fairly thin brush and specking technique. The combination of both of these methods gives the best results in my opinion. The main component of such dump spots is oil paint. I use engine grease, but it can also be dark brown, dark grey or black, or a mix of all these colors. Only the sky is the limit. Once again I will repeat that the bottom of the hull is just as important as other elements of the model, which is why I always work on it to make it look as good as possible. The chain, as always in my model, this time is standard equipment for this vehicle. I wrapped it with a pencil and that was enough to make it look perfect. Finally, I prepared some extra stuff attached to the rear plough. The entire film of the presentation of this set is available on my Patreon, so if you want to see it, I invite you to join the group supporting my humble person. The figure is from the set, although consider using the Alpine product. They are similar, so just check it. Using a few moments I painted the base, which as you can see is very basic and is intended primarily as a background for the tank. Of course I used the same product for weathering as on the model. So the effect is as you can see right now. I was sure it would look good because Tamiya models always look good. A bit of extras did the job here and now the model pleases the eye of the collector in Italy. If you are interested in building models to order, just let me know. Every model I build is for sale. So if you had a good time watching it, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more videos with my projects. As I said before, you can also consider joining my Patreon group, because you can find there daily reports from my workshop even if I don't broadcast regular videos on YouTube. Please remember that your support if you join is highly appreciated and helps me do what I do here at coldemonspl. Thanks to this I will try to give you some interesting content to keep you informed and entertained. Right now, if you are interested in this kit, you can find their extra gallery pictures in high resolution quality. There are also other superb galleries of my projects, so just check it out. In the next episode I will show you something special, so that you don't miss anything, stay tuned. That's all for today, see you next time, cheers!